Hi there crafters, it's Louise with you today. Welcome along. This is a slightly different 3 Old 3 New today, and this one is all about an art journal. So recently I picked up these uniquely creative rub-on doors, and I haven't art journaled for a little while, but I thought these would maybe give me a little bit of the inspiration that I felt I had been lacking lately. So I'm going to pull out an art journal and I flick through to see if I have a vacant page free. I don't, so I'm just going to use one side of a double space opening. I'm going to cut my door and use this as my focal center point for creating this art journal. Now, when I art journal, I use this kind of as an opportunity to almost create a scrapbook page without the pressure of having to include a photo. But I always still want to be able to have a focal point. So in this case, the door is the focal point. And I start off just simply by putting down some paint. So my 3 old are these sort of shimmery two-tone paints. I think their brand called Lumiere, and they were part of a mixed media kit from Kitaholic Kits 1 month, and they are gloriously shimmery, and I do love the colours that come from them. So they are a fun paint to use, and I don't know why I don't use them more often, but it definitely is, again, helping me with this 3 Old 3 New stash busting situation, that I can actually get some of these products out and start to play with them. So this particular kind of mixed media background, where you start with a layer of paint, add some stencil work over the top, you could absolutely replicate this in a scrapbook layout. You don't necessarily need to create an art journal if it's not your thing. I like it for the challenge of doing something different. But definitely, if it's not for you, these same techniques can definitely be applied to a scrapbook layout background. Now, as you can see, I'm using the purpley kind of colour to stencil over the top. Now, this was actually a brand new stencil, so I'm considering it as one of my new elements for today. And again, I loved the shapes of this stencil. I thought it would look really great in a background for a mixed media kind of art journal page. Teal and purple seem to be a set of colours that work really nicely together, so I definitely enjoy that part of creating, is picking the colours that I like in my art journal and getting something into a background. Now, a brayer is a great little tool that can help you to spread colour a little bit quicker. So I felt that my background was far too vibrant for what I was going to build on top of it, particularly my focal point, which was my door. And so I wanted to dampen that down a little bit, and I did that just with some white gesso and that brayer to spread that colour around. Now, art journaling, if you've never done it before, can be quite a challenge, but essentially it's about building up layers. So particularly layers of different kinds of things. And in this case, you can see I've started with some plain colour acrylic paint. I've then stenciled some acrylic paint, and I've also used gesso and now stamping. So it's kind of a fun way to actually add different elements to a background without the pressure of having to match them to a photo or create with certain embellishments. In fact, I actually keep my embellishing to quite a minimum because I don't have a lot of space in the journal to make it quite thick. So I want to be sure that it's telling a story, and it's a pretty entry into my journal, but I don't want it to be too overwhelmed. Okay, now I had to pop this aside overnight because the ink pad that I use does need time to dry. If I put gel medium over the top of my ink without letting it completely dry, it will smear, and that's just purely because I could not find my archival ink. It had gone walkabout somewhere, so I had to use a sort of a longer drying time ink, of which I can't think of the name off the top of my head. But I love the circles, so I love that I've got this background in terms of the teal initial colour, the purple overlay, the circular stamps, and now I'm adding some stars. So you can see that each element of the background has sort of its own function, and they will eventually all blend together to give this interesting sort of element, so to speak. Now, I pulled this frame from my stash because, again, I had to separate the background. So what I'd created in terms of the color and the layers, I had to separate those from my door. And so I pull out my little graphite pencil, crayon-y kind of thing, I don't even know what it's called, and I just draw some frames, activate them with water to give me this sort of messy background look, and then I'm going to do the same over the top of my frame so that it blends in with that background. The frame itself is purely for texture, and it's at this point where once I stick everything down, I'm going to pop my rub-on onto the layout as well. Now, I want you to be super careful with your rub-on because sometimes they don't take well to some of the layers that are on here. For example, I did one the other day and it actually didn't like sticking to distressed crayon. So I had smudged some distressed crayon around, and as I was trying to then attach rub-on over the top, it did not like that. So it didn't stick very well. You have to be quite careful of the type and quality of the rub-on and how well it sticks to the elements that you have built into your background. So I would definitely recommend having a test run, as it may be. Now, I also sprayed a little bit of white in there that I didn't talk about either. Again, I felt like my door, which was my whole focal point, was going to get lost in some of that background layer. So I just sprayed some white and hit it with the heat gun in order to dry that out and separate that door that little bit. I'm now adding my title, which I've kept relatively simple in terms of the door being the inspiration, and I'm simply going to title it Be Open. And it's kind of like be open to new adventures, be open to change, be open in general to life and all its adventures. So that is my art journal page for my 3 Old 3 New, and I hope that you enjoyed. So thanks for watching.